April 29, 1945, a wedding in the middle of a war. It was late at night in Berlin. The world above was full of bombs and fire. Soviet soldiers were coming. The city was almost gone. But under the ground, deep inside a concrete bunker, Adolf Hitler sat in silence. He was alone, 56 years old, tired and sick. His hands were shaking. His eyes looked empty. He knew the truth. The war was lost. His army was broken. His time was almost over. And then, something strange happened. Hitler made a decision. He called his assistant and said, "Prepare for a wedding. I will marry Eva Braun tonight." This was a surprise. For 14 years, Eva had stayed beside him. But they never married, never showed their love in public. No one saw pictures of her. She was hidden from the world. Eva was a young woman when she met Hitler. She was only 17. She loved him and followed him, even when he never gave her much attention. She waited for him. She believed in him. She was always quiet, always loyal. Sometimes, she felt forgotten. She even tried to take her own life at times, not because Hitler hurt her, but because she felt invisible. Still, she stayed. She believed in his mission. And now, even when people begged her to leave the bunker, she refused. She said, "No, I stay with him." Hitler saw her loyalty. He realized she did not follow him for power or money. She followed him because of faith. That night, he decided, "She deserves my name, even if only for a few hours." The wedding was very simple. It happened inside the bunker. There were no flowers, no music, no guests. There was only the sound of bombs outside and pens writing on paper. Eva wore a pale blue dress. She looked calm. People said her face looked like she already accepted death. Hitler wore a black suit. He did not wear medals. He did not look like a leader anymore. A man stood in front of them and asked the wedding question, "Do you take this woman?" Hitler answered, "Yes," just like that. After 14 years together, they were now husband and wife. Some staff members tried to celebrate. They set a small table and opened a bottle of champagne. But no one drank, no one laughed. The feeling in the room was not joy. One officer later said, "It felt like a funeral, not a wedding." After the wedding, Hitler walked to another room. He sat at his desk. His hands were shaking. His eyes looked dead. His voice was quiet. He told his secretary to write his final political statement. This was his goodbye message to the world. He did not say sorry. He did not cry. He did not accept defeat. Instead, he blamed other people. He blamed the Jews for starting the war. He blamed his own generals for losing it. He said history would understand him, even if he would not live to see it. Then he gave a clear order. "I do not want my body to be found. I want it to be burned." Hitler remembered what happened to Mussolini, another dictator. Mussolini's body was taken by a crowd. People spat on it, kicked it, and hung it upside down. Hitler did not want that to happen to him. He wanted to control everything, even his own death. He signed the paper slowly and carefully. That was his last command. It was now close to 5 o'clock in the morning. The bombs were still falling. The city above was falling apart. But inside the bunker, time felt frozen. The air was heavy. People were afraid to speak. Some were crying. Some just waited in silence. Hitler returned to his room. Eva was waiting for him. She sat beside him. They did not speak much. They did not need to. They both knew this was the end. This was their wedding night, and it was also their last night alive. They held hands. They sat quietly. Outside, Berlin was burning. Inside, they waited. This moment was not about love. It was about control. It was about ending everything in a planned way. A marriage, a statement, a death. Hitler wanted to leave nothing unfinished. No questions, no doubt. And so, in a quiet bunker below a dying city, a strange wedding took place. It was not a wedding of hope. It was a wedding of silence. A final decision before the darkness came. April 30th morning, between loyalty and loss. The morning of April 30th was quiet inside the bunker. Outside, the war was getting worse. Soviet tanks were very close. Gunshots could be heard in the distance. Buildings were burning, people were dying. But inside the bunker, everything felt still, like time had stopped. Adolf Hitler woke up early. He looked tired and thin, his hands were shaking. His eyes were dull and lifeless. He did not speak much. He sat at the table with his wife, Eva Braun. They had been married just a few hours ago. Now, they were eating a small breakfast. It was just dry bread and tea. They ate in silence. There were no big plans, no talks about hope, no smiles. The meal felt like a goodbye. Eva sat close to Hitler. She was calm, she wore a dark dress. She did not cry, she did not ask questions. She just stayed next to him. This was not a normal morning. This was the last morning of their lives. Later that day, Hitler did something shocking. He asked for the cyanide capsules. These were small pills with poison. He did not use them right away. Instead, he said something unexpected. Test the poison on Blondie. Blondie was Hitler's dog. She was a German shepherd. Blondie had been with Hitler for many years. She followed him everywhere. She slept next to him. She was loyal and quiet. She was the only living creature he trusted. The doctor followed Hitler's order. He gave a capsule to Blondie. She died in just a few seconds. No noise, no pain, just silence. The people in the room were shocked. Some turned away, some looked at the floor. They could not believe it. For many of them, this moment changed everything. If Hitler could kill his own dog, the one creature he loved and trusted, then they knew something. He was serious about dying. He did not stop there. He also gave orders to kill Eva's two small dogs Wolf and Stasi. Even the puppies of Blondie were killed. The reason was clear. Hitler did not want to leave anything behind, not even his pets. He believed that when he died, everything close to him must die too. No body, no family, no animals, no memory. After that, Hitler walked slowly to the war map room. This was the place where he used to command his army. The walls had maps of Europe. Years ago, he pointed at these maps and gave orders. He felt powerful. But now, he looked at the maps and said quietly, "This is no longer a war room. It is the museum of my failure." His body was weak. His steps were slow. His voice was soft. He was no longer a strong leader. He was just a tired man waiting for the end. Some officers begged him to leave Berlin. They said, "We still have a plane. You can escape. We will protect you." But Hitler shook his head. "No," he said, "I will not run. I will not be captured. I will die here, in Berlin." That was his final decision. He gave permission for others to escape. Some guards, drivers, and staff tried to leave that night. They planned to use secret tunnels or dress as civilians. Most of them were caught or killed. But Hitler did not care anymore. He had made up his mind. In the afternoon, he returned to his room. Eva was waiting. She had changed her clothes again. She was now wearing a clean dark dress. No makeup, no perfume, no fear. She looked ready. Hitler looked at her and said, "You still have time. You can go. You can escape with the others." Eva smiled and answered, "No, I stay with you." That moment showed something deep. It was not about love. It was about loyalty. Cold, final loyalty. Eva had chosen to die beside him. Later, Hitler called his secretaries and aides into the hallway. One by one, he shook their hands. He said thank you to some. To others, he just nodded. One woman said later, he looked like a ghost. Calm, empty, already gone. There were no big speeches, no last-minute plans. Just quiet goodbyes. Some people cried. Some stood still, some looked away. Everyone knew this was the end. As night came, the bunker was filled with silence. Hitler and Eva had a small meal together. Bread and tea again. Outside, the city was burning. The sound of bombs and gunfire was getting closer. But inside, Hitler did not move. He did not speak. He sat at the table with Eva and wrote something in his notebook. He was not reading news. He was not giving orders. He was waiting. His war was over. His world was ending. This day was not full of action. It was full of silence. It was not a day of loud decisions. It was a day of quiet choices. Hitler had chosen to stay. Eva had chosen to die with him, and together, they waited for the end to come. April 30th afternoon to May 9th, death, rumours, and the power of silence. It was the afternoon of April 30th, 1945. Inside the bunker, everything was quiet. Outside, the sound of gunfire was louder. Soviet soldiers were only a few blocks away. Berlin was falling. But inside, Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun were preparing for something else. They were preparing to die. At around 3:30 p.m., Hitler and Eva went into their private room. No one else was allowed to enter. They closed the door behind them. Before this, Hitler gave a clear order to two of his closest staff, Otto Gunsch and Heinz Linge. He told them, "When we are dead, take our bodies outside. Burn them completely. Do not let anyone find us." He remembered what happened to another dictator, Mussolini. His body was found by an angry crowd. It was kicked, spit on, and hung in public. Hitler did not want that to happen to him. He wanted control, even in death. Inside the room, Eva took a cyanide pill. She lay down on the sofa. Her face stayed calm. She did not scream. She had made her decision. Hitler also had a cyanide pill. But to be sure, he also took his gun. He sat next to Eva. He put the gun to his head. Then, a single shot rang out. Otto and Heinz, standing outside the room, heard the gunshot. They waited a few seconds, then opened the door. Inside, they found Hitler and Eva dead. Hitler had a small bullet wound in his right temple. Blood was on the wall and floor. Eva had no wounds. But there was a bitter smell in the air, the smell of cyanide. Otto and Heinz quickly wrapped the two bodies in blankets. They carried them up the stairs, through the hallway, and out into the garden behind the bunker. The ground was shaking. Artillery shells were falling nearby. The air was thick with smoke. They placed the bodies in a shallow hole. Then, they poured gasoline over them. Otto lit a match and dropped it. Flames rose. The bodies began to burn. There was no music, no flag, no speech, just fire and silence. After a few moments, the men returned to the bunker. They told the others, "It is done. The Führer is dead." People stood still. No one spoke. There was no celebration. Just silence and fear. Everyone knew the end had come. But there were still others inside the bunker. One of them was Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's Minister of Propaganda. He was now the highest-ranking Nazi left. He refused to run. He called his wife, Magda, and said, "We will not live in a world without him." Together, they made a terrible decision. They would kill themselves and their 6 children. That night, Magda gave the children sleeping pills. All 6 were dressed in clean white clothes. When they were sleeping, she gave them poison. They died without waking up. Later, Joseph and Magda went to the same garden where Hitler had died. Joseph shot himself. Magda took poison. Their bodies were burned too. Some people in the bunker tried to escape. A few wore civilian clothes. Others used secret tunnels. Some waited until dark. But outside, the city was in chaos. Most of the escape attempts failed. Many were caught or killed. Otto and Heinz went back to the garden the next day. They checked the burned bodies, but the fire had not finished the job. The ground was wet from rain. There was not enough gasoline. Parts of the bodies were still visible. They burned them again, then buried what was left. They covered the hole with dirt and broken wood. There was no cross, no name, no sign. On May 1st, Soviet soldiers arrived at the Reich Chancellery. They entered the building. Then they found the bunker. It was dark, full of smoke and broken things. They found poison capsules, burned papers, and blood on the floor. But they did not find Hitler's body right away. Later, they found 2 burned bodies in the garden. One was a man with a bullet wound. The other was a woman with no injuries. The Soviets believed it was Hitler and Eva, but they were not sure. They took the bodies. They performed secret tests. They told their leader, Joseph Stalin. But Stalin made a decision. He said nothing. He wanted to keep the truth hidden. He believed if people did not know for sure, they would stay afraid. So, the truth was kept secret. Because of this, many rumors began. Some people said Hitler escaped. Some said he went to Argentina. Others believed he used a body double. For many years, people did not know what to believe. Only many decades later, after the Soviet Union collapsed, the truth came out. The Soviets had performed a dental exam on the body. They compared it with Hitler's dental records. A woman who worked on Hitler's teeth during the war confirmed the match. The body was his. With Hitler dead and Goebbels gone, there was nothing left. On May 7th, Germany surrendered to the Allies. On May 9th, they surrendered to the Soviets. The war in Europe was over. The Third Reich, once powerful and feared, ended in a quiet bunker, in silence and fire. There was no glory, no pride, only ashes and shame, but the world had learned something. When a leader rules with hate and fear, they will always fall in the end. And when the truth is hidden, lies grow. This story is not just about war. It is a lesson in history, a lesson in truth. And for those learning English, it is also a chance to grow, to think deeply, and to speak with purpose. Now you have reached the end of this powerful and emotional story, the last 24 hours of Adolf Hitler. From the silence in the bunker to the fire in the garden, you have walked through the final day of a man who once controlled millions, but ended alone, in fear and in shame. In the beginning, we saw a man who made a strange decision to get married when the world was ending. It was not a decision of love, but of control. He married Eva Braun, a woman who stayed loyal until the end. Even when she knew what was coming, together, they sat quietly, waiting for the moment they chose to die. Then came the darkest hours, the death of his dog, Blondie, and the killing of every pet in the bunker. Hitler didn't want to leave anything behind. He knew he was finished. He gave up on everything. He refused to run. He refused to speak to the people, and in the end, he died by his own hand, alone in a small room underground. After that, everything collapsed. His closest followers either escaped or died. Joseph Goebbels and his wife killed their 6 children before ending their own lives. The bunker became a place of silence, of fear, of broken dreams. And for many years, the truth about Hitler's death was hidden. The Soviet Union chose silence. That silence became a seed for lies and rumors. It took decades for the world to finally confirm the truth. But what matters most is not how he died. It is what we learn from how he lived. The story of Hitler is not just a story from the past. It is a warning. It teaches us that when a leader rules with fear, hate, and lies, the end is always destruction. It reminds us to question power, to stand up for truth, and to never follow blindly. In today's world, we must stay awake. We must choose kindness over hate, truth over lies, and courage over silence. History is not just something to remember, it is something to learn from, so we do not repeat it. Congratulations, dear listener. By reaching this point, you have improved your English listening, your understanding, and your thinking. This is how you grow, not only in language, but also as a person. Now let's test your understanding with a small question. What did Hitler ask to be done after his death? A. To be buried in a secret place. B. To be burned completely. Comment your answer below by typing A or B, and let's see how many of you are really listening. If you enjoyed this story and it helped you practice English in a new way, please subscribe to our channel. Your support gives us the energy and motivation to keep creating more meaningful, emotional stories for you to enjoy and to learn from. Also, if you believe in what we're doing and want to help us continue making high-quality content, please consider donating. In the beginning, it's very hard. We do this for free to help you learn English, but we also need support to grow and improve. Thank you for listening, for learning, and for growing with us. See you in the next story.